fridge.
This is how I get canceled, is trying to do your half mixed race jokes.
So,
No, it's okay. No, if I were to try and tackle that, the first thing I would do, I can see your instinct. Your instinct is to go into poetic language. That sometimes doesn't work for me. So what I do is I start a short. I go as economic as possible. Short verses, short stanzas, and maybe the title of the poem could be being mixed race. And then you go into each. You have examples for, like your first one. Your first joke is a stanza, and then you continue with more examples. And that's a really basic way to start any joke into a poem. Is just, what's your premise? I'm mixed race. What are your tags? Example one, example two, example three.
okay. But yeah. It's. Would you say which is easier to maintain once you've got their attention? Which is
Mhm.
easier to maintain the attention? Just writing jokes in the one-liners or the poems themselves? Is it which loses them quicker?
That's a great question. Is this assuming that both the jokes and the poems are equally funny?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's easier to hold people if they're equally funny. It's, for me at least, because I'm not much of a storyteller. So for me, it's easier to do poems because with poems you can take your time, you can give it a bit of performance, you can insert silences in your act, which is super important if you've ever done longer stuff. You're like, I can't be talking all the time. There has to be little bits of silence. People reset, and so if you're telling poems, you can take upon a poetic voice. You can speak more slowly, enunciate things that grab people's attention naturally, biologically. People are going to pay attention if all of a sudden your tone changes and your cadence changes and you start reading something intently, like that.
Mm. What you said there is that what you do to try and seduce people? You say, "Hello, lady." Da-da-da-da. So do
Yes.
yeah.
I say that. I say, "Hello, lady, da 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 da," and then they fall to their knees.
But have you ever used poetry in a to woo anyone?
Have I ever used my comedic poetry to woo a lady?
Or
No. I've used them to scare them away. I'm like, I'm sorry, I need to be alone right now. I'll read you this poem and then you'll get out of here.
you know what? That could be. It's great. It's great for these, sales calls that people do. Just say you're gonna read them a poem or something.
Yeah. If I get a call, a spam caller, I'm gonna say, "Hey, oh, you want to sell me car insurance? Well, first let me read some of my new poetry," and then they hang up right away.
I think that's a good idea. I'm gonna use that.
Yeah, you should.
But make it really so. Make the joke on them, where like, oh, okay, you want to sell me this? I'm gonna sell you some poetry, and this poetry is about how I
Mm.
kicked his shoe into my neighbor's window.
Yes, and then see how far you get in the poem before they hang up. If they stick around and they're like, "This is actually great," then you've got yourself a winner. It's a win-win. Either you kick them off, or they say, "This is amazing. You need to put this somewhere. You need to publish this poem."
And you're gonna put it in your set.
Yeah, they put the whole story there.
So one of the things, it would be quite a good sketch, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the Bill Hader, SNL alum, made this joke at a panel I watched one time where where a plane gets stuck on the tarmac and they're waiting to take off, and the pilot goes to the intercom and starts reading his own poetry.
Please send me the link.
Yeah, it's on YouTube somewhere.
I'll have a click. What? So with your sort of you trying to do poetry and like this big need you have to try and be unique,
Hmm.
how with comedy I found that a lot of people sometimes have an adverse effect, reaction to things that are different to this what they
Hmm.
want it to be,
Hmm.
of being this the way the system's supposed to be. But
Absolutely.
at the end of the day with comedy, if it makes people laugh, it makes people laugh. That's the rule. All the other stuff is all your own opinion, really. And trying to say that's a rule is a load of shit.
Yeah, it's both points are true, and I have also there are some people who will just never be on board. with your premise, and that's something you just have to accept. You can some people you just cannot win over. Like I read poetry at a show once, and afterwards a lady came up to me and said, "Hey, I don't normally like poetry," and that was the end of her sentence. And so it's just like she hated poetry, she was into it. So even if my poem was the funniest poem ever, she's already decided that it's not funny, that she doesn't like it. So there's nothing you can do there. You just have to work on the people that are receptive to it.
Yeah.
But if it's funny, they'll laugh, you know? So that part you can control.
And you mentioned there, like you've always wanted to be unique, and Bo Burnham sort of
Hmm.
inspired you in a way. And he's someone that I hear a lot of, and I hear his Netflix special was amazing. And
Hmm.
I want to, I love the way he plays the piano and does all this music, and I want to find out a lot of more about him. Not seen much of his stuff yet,
Hmm.
but are there any other like people that inspire you in comedy today to be inventive and creative and do things outside the box?
Yes. I mean, right in front of me, I have on YouTube paused Rory Scovel, who's an American comedian, did a week of shows in 2018 where he improvised an hour each night. And he always does something wacky, and he didn't write any material for this week long shows, and that's, I love that energy. His energy is also very, yeah, he's very wacky, but in a kind of a smart stupid way. Like he combines smart and stupid. You were gonna say something?
No, I'm like a whole hour of just improvised
Yes,
stuff.
for
Whoa!
for a week's worth of shows like that. Crazy.
I'm just whoa.
Yeah. It's really great though. It's on YouTube. It's a documentary. It's called I'm plugging his show, but it's called Live Without Fear. Rory Scovel. You guys should look it up on YouTube. It's free to watch. It's really amazing watching him freak out before he does a show where he just improvises everything. So he's very influential. And there are also comedians who maybe their sense of humor doesn't drive me, but their ambition and their performance does. Like mostly American comedians, I'm going to quote here, but Beth Stelling, I just saw her recently, and she's up for an Emmy nomination. She is so poised on stage, and she has so much intent that it pushes me. It gives me ambition to work on that, even if we have different senses of humor.
What's her name again? The
Beth Stelling, first name Beth, last name Stelling, Stelling.
and Rory Scorbald.
Rory Scovel, 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 both American. I'm sorry, my UK repertoire in terms of comedians is not as good as my American.
But Beth Stelling, so what is it? What does she do? Does she just do 50 sit-ups on stage? What?
No, she can be very slow and very quick. So she's a master at changing her pace. She is also really good at handling topics that would scare normal audiences. Like in her most recent special, she talks, about rape culture. Um,
Oh,
yeah, but I haven't actually seen it yet, but I know I want to because it's up for an Emmy. And also, she's hilarious, and she's also, very autobiographical. She's very deadpan. She can be very dry. All things that I aspire to be.